This is Gene Lance with the Workers Beat. Today I'm interviewing Stu Becker, an activist with the American Federation of Teachers and one of the youngest activists I know. I like to find out what's going on with young people. Hi, Stu.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. So, what is going on with the younger people? Because I got into a conversation with a bunch of younger people the other day, and they were saying that they didn't know what to do now that we have taken such a big beating and such a big disappointment had happened. I couldn't figure out what they were talking about for a little while, and I finally realized they were talking about the fact that Bernie Sanders had dropped out of the race for president. I guess that's what they were talking about. How are young people reacting to that in your acquaintance?
Well, I've gotten a lot of Facebook friends from Bernie supporters, and so a lot of them are just really angry, and they're talking about how we need to start a new party, start a third party, and some of them are talking about voting for the Green Party, but a lot are they're just fed up with the Democratic Party, the corporate Democratic Party, and they are talking about how they want to start a new party. And that's what I'm hearing a lot about around the Bernie Sanders thing. So,
what I find kind of amazing is that they're saying they're disappointed in the Democratic Party. So what were they expecting to begin with? Did they not understand that the Democratic Party is a capitalist party?
Yeah, I know.
Did they think it was going to transform itself or something and become something else?
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, yeah, a lot of the people, like, I'm a member of DSA, and so people are talking about the next steps and where we can elect the next Democratic Socialist senator and things like that. But, yeah, for me, I looked at the Bernie Sanders movement as a strategy. It was a way to come into contact with a lot of young people, or a lot of people who are interested in socialism and interested in fighting for things like Medicare for all and the Green New Deal and free college university and things like that. So it was more like a strategy for me, and it's been really cool because I've had a lot of people. I get like dozens of Facebook friend requests a day from people who are want to fight for the working class and for universal health care, for the Green New Deal and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. But from the very beginning, Bernie himself said, "I can't do all these things. It's going to take a movement." And at the end, he didn't say this is a gigantic catastrophe or a setback. He said, in fact, we have won the ideological battle. He said, we have won the ideological battle. We just didn't get the vote.
Yeah.
And I don't see why people don't agree with that. Or do you think that they do agree with it?
I think that they do agree with it. I think that if you look at Texas, I think 58% of Texas voters said that they agreed with socialism, and that if you in the exit polls, if you look at the exit polls, most people, they agree with Medicare for all, they agree with the Green New Deal, they agree with free college university. It's just that they believe that Joe Biden was more electable, and that they feel like he's better, he's more likely to beat Trump, and so people are really interested in beating Trump. But it seems like most people, even the people who voted for Joe Biden, supported Bernie Sanders' platform.
But if they followed Bernie Sanders, and he says that we won the ideological battle, that's not a setback. That's not a catastrophe. And further, he also went on to say, vote for Joe Biden. So if these are people who really, really follow Bernie Sanders and think that he's right on, then they're going to vote for Biden. But that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing other people say they're going to go every which way. Do you think what do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's what I hear. Everybody, like, from all my new Facebook Bernie friends, that yeah, they're just pissed, they're angry, they're not gonna vote for the Democrat, might vote for the Green Party, or we should start a new party. I'm seeing a movement for a People's Party, and all these things. So I'm not sure what to think about it. But
You and I are part of the labor movement. And the labor leaders always say that we're not Democrats, we're not Republicans. They say we are trade unionists and that we represent our members and that we are going to do what's best for our members. So what is best for our members as we face this electoral challenge in November? In my opinion, Bernie's right. He was right when he said we should have voted for him and that we should support him. And he was right when he said, I can't win, vote for Biden. And I think that's what labor leaders and all mature members that are actually for working people, I think that's what they're going to say. But it may not go down good with some of the young activists, some of the young Turks, the young hot bloods. And
yeah, if you look at, I saw somebody, Crystal Ball, she has a show called Rising, and they're talking about how we should withhold our vote from the Democratic Party in order to get what they want. But I'm just not sure what's the best strategy. And I know lots of people are talking about right now direct action and general strikes in order to get these things, to make these demands. Like Callie Akuno of Cooperation Jackson, he put forward the idea of a general strike and making all sorts of demands like universal health care, a Green New Deal, universal basic income, canceling rent, stuff like that. So
I have one good friend who was really, really into the Bernie campaign. And now since then, he has said, I'm giving up on electoral politics, and I'm going to work on picketing and, and mass action, that sort of thing. Now, do you think people can do both? I mean, isn't the electoral arena just one part of the struggle that working families have to fight?
Yeah, I think you could do both. I don't see why you can't do both. I think electoral, yeah, it's just a strategy. But really what we want to do is figure out a way to bring the working class to power and to make demands from these people in power and eventually bring more and more power to the working class. So I think, yeah, for Bernie, it was just a strategy, in my opinion. Because even if Bernie was elected, I heard some of my friends and my fellow activist friends say he would be a lame duck president without, and even Bernie suggested this himself, without the masses of the people, the masses of working class people and people getting involved in politics and making demands. So like you said, if Bernie couldn't do it by himself, he would have to be the organizer in chief. So even if we did elect him, that still wouldn't bring about Medicare for all, the Green New Deal. So I am leaning towards I think we should probably vote for Biden because at least he acknowledges the fact that global warming is a problem and that we should do something to stop carbon emissions. And
on point by point on working family, if one is considering the point of view of working families, Biden would be better than Trump on point after point after point. You're talking about the environmental thing. Just today, for example, the papers revealed that Mr. Trump is going to allow the importation of some toxic poisons that were prohibited previously. And on Thursday, the newspaper announced, this is 2 days ago, the newspaper announced that he was lifting the restrictions on coal and going to allow more pollution from coal. So just on environmental issues alone, you could see that Biden is better. But he's not perfect. He's not everything that people wanted. And for some people, Bernie was perfect. For some people, Bernie was really the cat's meow, just exactly what they wanted. And if they're not going to get exactly what they want, a lot of them, I think, are saying, I'm just going to take my toys and go home. But in my opinion, that's very immature. It's an ultra-left. It's an ultra-left position. Ultra-left does not mean more left than somebody else. It means crazy. It means immature. It means if I can't get what I want, then I'm just going to pick up my toys and go home. So in the electoral arena, we may not like Biden all that much, but we can't abandon working families when we decide what we're going to do. So working families will be better off if Trump does not get reelected, because there's a real danger of fascism. Fascism is coming at us very, very close, and since it's so far outside of our experience, and since Americans are so convinced that they're a democratic nation, that they could never be fascist, they don't see the similarities between the situation in America today and that in Germany in the early 1930s. They don't see the strain on the system and the erosion of democracy that has already taken place, and that seems to be almost maybe not a daily occurrence, but monthly or weekly. The voter suppression, the legitimization of redistricting for political purposes, the gutting of the Civil Rights Act, the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, the Citizens United decision from the Supreme Court, which allowed big money to basically just take over our election system. So people may not see that the democracy is already greatly on the decline, and that the next election could just simply be postponed right out of existence. So it's important to stop that, and that means fighting in the electoral arena as well as in every other arena. But let me ask you about this, speaking of other arenas, because you're in the teachers union, and I envy you, because the teachers have done so much. They've taught the rest of us how to fight in certain states. Have you had that same impression?
Yeah, if you look at all the other states like Oklahoma, West Virginia, Arizona, they have been striking. And I heard that they were really inspired by the Bernie Sanders movement. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, AFT seems like a really strong, powerful national union. But yeah, in Dallas ISD, we've been struggling against merit pay based on standardized testing and constant micromanaging of teachers.
Just 2 or 3 years ago, they tried to privatize your whole school system.
Yeah.
Your whole school district. And then they took one of the guys that was most in favor of that and made him the head of the state board of education.
Yes.
Marath.
Yeah, Mike Marath. Yeah, it seems like the whole school board is completely bought off by the biggest CEOs, the richest people in Dallas. It's part and parcel with this privatization, the school privatization agenda. It comes down to just making profits, because they want to make everything about standardized testing and make our pay tied towards that. And so as a teacher, you see, like, the way this plays out as a teacher in DISD, teachers see just the constant micromanaging, and then teachers get fed up with that. Plus, teachers' pay are held down because of, like, this teacher excellence initiative, which is this merit pay system, which it's only in DISD. Like, for instance, DISD teachers are the only teachers subjected to this constant micromanaging. If you look at the whole Dallas metropolitan area, seems like we're the most micromanaged, and our district has more standardized testing than any other district. For instance, go ahead.
There's been a tremendous amount of money being poured into the school board races in Dallas. And
Yeah.
I don't know where that money's coming from, but it's coming from people that have money and not coming from working people.
Yeah, I know where it's coming from. It's coming from these oil and gas companies, these uh, mortgage, what do you call it? Sorry, yeah, just the richest people in Dallas. The Dallas Chamber of Commerce,
Mm.
these largest, yeah, these richest people, these big CEOs, it comes from them. The local billionaires. So.
Hmm. Are the young people going to take over? I mean, I know you belong to the Young Active Labor Leaders, which is really part of the AFL-CIO in Texas, and and the reason for that is to try to develop young leadership. But are they going to really have an effect, in your opinion?
I'm not sure. I think that more and more young people are coming involved. Um, but I think we just need to keep getting the masses of people involved, and hopefully that'll have an effect. But I'm not sure if we need young people to take over. I think that we do need older people for guidance because they have more experience. But I'm not sure it's all about having young people take over. We just need maybe to win the hearts and minds of the masses of the people and get them to think progressively, get them involved politically and active.
I know that in one area, the young people already have a great advantage, and that is in the area of technology. And now during this pandemic, when almost all organizing, almost all meetings, almost everything that's being done is being done online, and the young people are take to it like a duck to water, but us older people are really struggling to be able to handle this technology.
Yeah, last night there was just a meeting of the young active labor leaders on Zoom, and we were talking about all the conditions that the workers are facing. Well, it was targeted around young workers, but I think it applies to all workers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like using Zoom calls, we've been doing that. Like it's easy for us. So, but right now you see all these Zoom calls and everybody's putting out videos. So I was just watching two videos right now, one on Cuba and like the U.S. blockade of Cuba and arguing that the United States to pressure the United States to lift the blockade of Cuba. And also I watched another one with Kashama Sawant, city council, socialist city council member of Seattle, and Callie Acuna, and they're talking about moving towards a general strike. So you just see a whole lot of digital organizing and video, social media organizing everywhere.
Now that city
Normal.
council person in Seattle, they're talking about a general strike, you said, and I'm hearing general strike more and more and more. But I think most Americans don't even know what it is. So, do you think a general strike is that's one of the possibilities of what might happen?
I think it is a possibility of it might happening. I'm learning more and more. I only know a little bit about history's general strike,
Mm-hmm.
but I think a whole lot more people are talking about it now than usual. And it seems like if the people in power want to make people go back to work before May 1st, right now it's more likely to happen now than it's ever been in recent history. So
There may be a general strike around the fact that the Republicans are trying to force everybody back to work by May 1st, or some of them are.
yeah, another interesting thing about this moment is you see the power, which a lot of people have been saying is like Naomi Klein and Kashama Sawant. You see really the power of the so-called essential workers, like the people who work at the grocery stores, the people who work at fast food restaurants, or those essential workers, the farm workers. Those people are really, you see clearly in this time that they're really the backbone of our society. Because if we couldn't eat, we'd all be really screwed. So yeah, they're seeing that their power and their importance, and I think that is another really cool thing about, or an interesting, positive part of this crisis is you're seeing like the power of the essential workers, and how they're really the true backbone of society, not the corporate CEOs.
I've seen two versions of what's going to happen as far as the labor movement goes. One of them says that since there are so many people on layoff, that the unions are not going to be getting any dues, that they're just going to dry up like raisins and evaporate. The other version, and I just saw this from the Texas AFL-CIO this week, they said that the union movement is going to jump forward gigantically, going to be bigger than it ever was, which would be pretty big, because we had over 35% of the workforce organized back in the early 1950s. So they're saying it's going to be bigger and bigger, better than ever, and the argument that they're making, I think, is that the unions have done such a fabulous job of taking leadership for the working families during this crisis, when clearly the government is against working families, and clearly corporations have always been against working families, and the unions have really stepped up, taken leadership, and making it possible for example, for the essential workers to get better deals on layoffs, better deals on their safety equipment, and better futures, better money. The United Food and Commercial Workers got a lot more money for some of their workers. So the hazard pay, the union movement has really stepped up, and the argument is that everybody sees that, and that as we come out of this pandemic, we're going to have the biggest labor movement we've ever seen before. Do you have an opinion one way or the other?
I don't have an opinion on that. I got to think more about that, about the union becoming more powerful out of this. But I do think that I'm hearing a lot that things will not go back to, as they said, it was normal. I think that there's going to be big changes throughout our society, people making demands like about universal basic income. The fact that we need universal health care, like this crisis clearly shows the need for universal health care. And so, and then maybe if we make those demands and we get victories, maybe we'll get more encouragement, and we'll continue to make all of the demands for all of the things we need, like a Green New Deal and just overall workers coming to power in society.
And maybe the younger people will get a shot at leadership that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise, especially because, as I said a while ago, because technology has become so important in the labor movement, whereas before we were still doing things the way they did them in the 1920s. Everything face-to-face. There was really very little done on the Internet. Lots of unions didn't even have a Facebook page or a website. Now they've got everything, and they're just pouring it on. The AFL-CIO is provided. You mentioned Zoom a while ago. You can buy Zoom at different levels, but the AFL-CIO has provided the very top level for its affiliates. And the Dallas AFL-CIO just got one of those Zoom accounts. You can have meetings of 500 people. And to buy that from Zoom, it would be hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. But they just gave it to us. And they gave us, in the Dallas AFL-CIO, they gave us a texting service that is just amazing. I've been studying it now for 2 months, and I'm still learning more things that the texting service can do. And also things that we can do with Zoom and other kinds of online work. Plus, they're giving us constant, daily, new memes, new recordings, new chances to do podcasts and that sort of thing. So it's truly, it is very true that the labor movement has come through with leadership for America's working families. And I just hope everybody recognizes that. And if that's true, then there really is going to be a gigantic labor movement as this pandemic comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to add anything else? We've had a really nice interview that I've enjoyed with a young labor leader, Stu Becker, from the American Federation of Teachers in Dallas. If you want to add anything else, now's the time.
Um, yeah, I just want to, like, this crisis just really shows that we need universal health care. But hopefully, I think it's just a really exciting time to to be a progressive activist in this country right now, because we're seeing a chance for huge change in society, and we're seeing more political activity than I think we've seen in recent history. People making demands like for universal health care and for the Green New Deal and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what happens next. And hopefully we all keep organizing.
We know everything's going to change, and some of us think things are going to be a lot better. This is Gene Lance on the Workers Beat. Thanks.